Back again. I know I'm doing live streaming wrong. I'm supposed to do these every day, right? And now I'm doing 2 in 1 day after a couple months off. But, now that I came back, a bunch of people are asking me questions that I'd like to get answered since I'm all set up and my hair looks perfect. Anyway, so here's a question from question number 2 from Marvin/Marwin, not sure. I guess it's Marwin. And it's a really cool question, so I wanted to jump on it while I had my ring light all set up. And the question is this: I work in a company that lends photocopy machines, and I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how I can apply value-based pricing for my products. We charge a few cents for every copy a client makes, but we have the same price whether the client is big or small. Any thoughts? I've got a bunch of thoughts. So the first thing I'll say is I find value pricing is more art than science. It's a performance art. It's like stand-up comedy. I think sales is a performance art. Lots of things are performance art. So it's a live, real-time interaction with an audience of one usually, and you're trying to help them uncover their underlying motivation for some kind of consulting engagement. It's not easy for people to do usually. They're usually their underlying motivations often live in their gut. They just have a gut instinct that they need to have someone do something. And you could just do what they ask you to do, but I think it's better for them and better for you if you find out why they want it done first, because they might be asking you to do the wrong thing. They might have a faulty self-diagnosis and they're asking you to do something that is the wrong solution to the real underlying problem that they want solved. So that's where the why conversation comes in. You ask them, why this, why now, why me? Why would you do this? Why not do this? This is going to be a risky thing. So this art, this performance art of having the why conversation or conducting the why conversation is tricky. It takes practice, and it's emotionally draining for you and the other person. So if the value of the project is too small, no one is going to want to invest, particularly the client, potential client is not going to want to invest the emotional labor and the time it takes to explain to you why, or to uncover why they want this project done. So if they just want their toilet unclogged, they're not going to stand by for like a why conversation, just unclog the toilet. So if it's a very small task that is essentially returning something to status quo, something broke, we want you to fix it, and it's a small thing, they're going to be confused by you, trying to step back and say, well, why do you want your toilet unclogged? Why now? Why do you want your toilet unclogged now? Why would you hire someone expensive like me to unclog your toilet? They're not going to do that. The value pricing works best for big projects. And when I say big, I mean multi-month, probably 6 months, at least 3 months, more commonly 12 months, 18 months, maybe even, 24 months is starting to push it. That probably should be broken into 2 projects. But value pricing works because it's hard and you don't want to invest too much effort in the sales process for tiny gigs. It works best for stuff that's going to be pretty big. Now, back to the specific question. Something like a per copy charge for photocopies is not a project. I only use value pricing for projects and big bet the business, urgent, risky projects. It doesn't make sense it just doesn't make sense. It's a commodity service, I'm sure. I'm sure there are plenty of competitors that offer photocopies at a per copy price. So if you wanted to increase your profitability, the approach would be to reframe the photocopying, instead of as a per copy thing, as a service, some kind of reproduction service where maybe they get unlimited copies. Maybe you are on standby to fix any kind of copies. Maybe you create a cloud solution, or you integrate with some sort of digital solution where as the copies are made, like digital copies are made, they're versioned, they're protected, something that would add value over and above what is a generic commodity thing. I'm assuming, I don't know that much about photocopies. It feels like a generic commodity solution where it's very easy to compare for clients to compare apples to apples, between whoever. I don't even know his provider's brother, Canon. I don't even know. But you probably have competitors, and you probably, I don't know about you, but it's probable that copy companies who are not thinking in a whole new way are probably trying to differentiate themselves on some sort of firstly on price, per copy price, maybe on service responsiveness, like if the thing gets jammed or something. Um, so I I understand. So I think value pricing is probably not a great fit for something that's not a project. This is an ongoing service that you're providing. It's like a subscription service. So if you really wanted to be kind of modern about this, differentiate yourself from what I imagine your competitors are, or who I imagine your competitors are, and take things to the next level, especially for bigger clients. If you've got big clients and small clients, you could offer unlimited service where you provide all the paper. Maybe they buy their own paper currently. Maybe you provide everything and they have unlimited copies. They can do whatever they want. And you charge them enough for it across all of your customers that it nets out. In other words, some clients might abuse the unlimited privilege, but most of them aren't. So if you charge enough where maybe you're losing money on some ridiculous people that are photocopying everything that moves, but most people are not. They're just photocopying the stuff they need photocopied, and they're not being wasteful about it. Then you could probably set a subscription price that's higher than what you're making now. And it's not this utility pricing, this usage model, which I can see is really, really not a great model, because it makes it so easy to compare apples to apples, and you differentiate yourself on a higher tier of service. You never have to worry about these machines. You will never have to worry about buying paper. You will never have to worry about loading them. You'll never have to worry about them jamming. You'll never have to worry about backups or anything else. It's like every time they scan something, it's saved to a secure drive that can be reprinted from anywhere. So if this machine is jammed, it'll come out of another one. We'll have an attendant come in, or maybe the machines are connected, cloud connected, and you can see usage levels, and you just send somebody in to refill them on a regular basis, like you would with toilet paper. A janitorial service isn't getting paid by the square of toilet paper. A janitorial service is getting paid by the overall outcome. It's not like this many paper towels that they replaced. Like, oh, well, you use 25 paper towels, you got to pay me for 25 paper towels. I don't think it works like that. Never hired a janitorial service, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work like that. So I think the idea of value pricing, it's much better fit for a project that has an outcome. Ron Baker would argue that subscription pricing is a form of value pricing, and it's true that it is, but I don't talk about it like that. There wouldn't be a why conversation. It's a productized service that has hardware components. So you'd come up with a price that's profitable, and you would sell it to companies that would value, probably the bigger ones, stick with the bigger ones, and sell it to them in a way that differentiates you from anybody else in the marketplace. Unlimited copies, unlimited backups, never have to worry about a jam or an empty machine. You don't have to worry about your machines anymore. If the thing is broken, you don't even have to call us. We'll see it's broken. We'll just come and replace it. No need to call us, no need to maintain them, nothing. So, I mean, that's my take on it. Perhaps it's completely unrealistic, but I do think that the move in the future, I mean, it's happening now, but I think it's going to be continue to move into the future. The subscription pricing, not utility pricing, that's different. Subscription pricing, I think, is the move. I think that people are used to Spotify and Netflix and you name it, subscription, everything's turning into a subscription clothes, for crying out loud, subscription to food. So why wouldn't you have a subscription to a copying service? Like I think it's Lockheed makes jet engines, and they sell them on subscription by like propulsion. How much propulsion do you need? And my understanding is that the engines are completely instrumented, so that Lockheed, it might not be Lockheed, but let's just say it's Lockheed. They know when an engine needs repair. They know when it needs attention, and they just deal with it. So the person who's operating the plane doesn't have to have mechanics on staff that know how to work with this particular engine. The engine essentially fixes itself because the engine calls people from the manufacturer to come and service it. So if you think of your service not as photocopies, but as a service, a replication service, or I don't know what you would, I don't know why people make photocopies anymore. Some kind of administrative or filing service or record keeping service, then um, you would differentiate yourself from people who are just selling like, oh, it's like a penny a copy, and we pay for what you use. Anyway, so that's a thought. To answer your question, I wouldn't value price it. I would subscription price it, and I would come up, I would talk to my best customers, my biggest customers, and I would say, what can we do to completely take photocopies off your mind? What are the things that we could do for you that would completely take photocopies off your mind? You shouldn't be thinking about photocopy machines or paper or jams or ink or toner or whatever it's called. None of that stuff. Let me take all of that stuff off your plate for the low, low price of X dollars per month. So they'll never get surprised by like, wow, we had a big copier month, right? So anyway, that's how I would look at it. Maybe it's impossible. I don't know. The industry might be too commoditized, might be too far gone. The market might be too small, but the market for photocopies might be too small. I have no idea, but that would be my suggestion. Turn it into a fixed price monthly service that provides complete turnkey concierge copying service. Cool. Hopefully that helped. We'll see you next time. Maybe I'll do another one today, like a madman. Oh, a whole bunch of comments here. Let's see. Yeah, let me read a couple of these. So one of the comments, I think you can increase the price if you offer more value. Yeah. I mean, that's, buy low, sell high. That's a general truism. So the question is, and what I was talking through is like ways that you could possibly increase the value to the company. Just completely take the concept, anything that's annoying about having a photocopy machine in your business, get rid of that annoyance. Yeah, some interesting suggestions in here that aren't what I said. Maybe they upload the files. Maybe you do the copying. Maybe it doesn't even happen on site. Maybe the machines aren't even on site. Here's a question. How do I find the value of a project where the client doesn't know what the outcome will be? Okay, so should I answer that now? The answer to that is so Tanner, the answer is you ask them what they want. So what and what you're talking about probably is, we want to, well, you said remaking an app. So they've got V1 of an app, proof of concept, and they say, hey, we want you to remake the app. Just do the why conversation. Why remake it? What's the problem? They're going to know why they want to remake it. There's going to be some problem. You might have to dig a little bit, but there's going to be a problem. You say to them, well, why not rebuild it? I mean, you're making money, right? It's like, it's working, right? So why rebuild it? Well, we don't think it looks that nice. So what? And let them answer. There's some reason in their head, but you need to help them uncover it because to them, it's so obvious, it's not worth saying. But that doesn't mean you know what it is. And you might have 10 guesses. You might have 10 guesses why they want to remake the app. It looks like crap. So obviously they want to remake it. But you need to find out what they think the reason is that they want to remake it. And the fact that they want to remake it indicates to me that they do think it's broken in some way. So you got to find out what it is. That's the why this question. Why this? Why do you want to do this? The next question is why now? Did something happen? Do you have some competitor breathing down your neck? Is Amazon coming into your space? Are you losing a lot of clients? Churn's getting worse and worse. Why now? Why is this urgent right now? And they'll tell you, or they'll say it's not urgent. And then you can just be like, okay, call me when it is. And the last thing is why hire a specialist? Why hire someone expensive like me to do it? Why not do it yourself? Get your cousin Vinny to get someone on Fiverr, and they'll tell you. They'll tell you why. They didn't not think of that. They didn't not think of the cheaper options. So ask them why they would hire someone expensive, and they'll tell you. And then you take all of that information and you do a non-scientific back of the envelope calculation of what based on what they've told you, there will be some metric that they're trying to move. So if you say like, what would be a home run? They're going to be able to tell you. They're going to say a home run would be we go from 3 stars in the App Store to 5 stars in the App Store or something like that. And then you just find out through conversation, how much of a big deal is that for them? Is that, and through these kinds of conversations, you can start to calculate roughly what it might be worth to a company like this to have a transformation like that. And then you figure out, well, how much can I contribute to that? 10%? At least 10%, or they wouldn't even be talking to you. So if you figure the value to them is $100,000, then you can definitely charge $10,000 for some kind of contribution. Other questions. Do you prefer subscription over one-time fees? Usually SaaS tries to push to a fee to solve for churn. I don't understand that question. Oh, here's a good question. How do you separate value from economic gain? So through conversation, this is like, it's beating a dead horse, I realize, but people want stuff. And the reason they want stuff is almost never because of the money it's going to make them. Think of all the stuff you bought today. There's probably not one thing you bought today that you thought was going to get you some financial return. You probably bought a coffee or you bought some food or whatever. You wanted it and it was worth the price that was posted. Almost everything we buy is worth it or not worth it based on how bad we want it, how much buying power we have, and our access to alternatives. Those 3 factors, the max price formula that I talk about, those 3 factors go into every decision that when we decide whether or not something's worth it. If there is a clear economic gain that you can point to, then that really helps, but it's not always there. So you need to find out, again, this is a performance art, not performance science. You need to find out how badly the buyer wants the thing. You need to take a wild guess. It's not an educated guess about what their buying power is. And then hopefully their access or the available alternatives are minuscule, like none, like you're the only alternative because your positioning is amazing. So they're only talking to you. They definitely want to work with you. They've got a ton of money and they really want this thing. If you've got those 3 boxes checked, you can deliver amazing results and charge accordingly. So if there is clear economic gain, like, I have one past student who can credibly walk into the ideal buyers, people that are spending tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on their AWS bill every month. He can credibly walk in there and say, if I don't save you $10,000 in the first the first hour that I'm here, I'll give you your feedback. So it's a no-brainer to hire this guy for $50,000 because he's going to save you 50% of $1 million monthly Amazon bill. Just rough round numbers. I'm not saying these are actual numbers, but someone who can directly tie their outcome to economic value makes it really easy. But 90% of the time, unless you're like you're creating huge cost savings very quickly, or if you are in sales and you can directly point to increased sales revenue from your intervention, you're probably upstream from any of that stuff. If you're in branding, you're way upstream. If you're in marketing, you're way upstream. If you're in operations or you do user experience or you build websites, you're way upstream from bottom line revenue, even top line revenue. But if the client is talking to you, they believe that something you can do will contribute to increased profits down the road, or increased market share, or decreased churn, or increased employee morale. They believe there's a connection. So in the why conversation, you'll tease out what the connection is between this weird upstream thing that you do and why they believe that's going to make their life better. And it almost never has a direct economic outcome. It would be great if it did, but it doesn't always, but that's still fine. It's the same reason you bought your coffee this morning. it's worth something to them. So you just figure out what your contribution is worth. Let's see. Oh man, some really big questions here. Actually got to jump, but Jamie's question is great. How do you productize your services as a front end developer? Here's a quick answer. Just to give you a couple of ideas. You've got the skills of a front end developer, right? So you're probably thinking, how do I productize front end development? Don't productize you doing front end development. Productize something that has to do with you knowing how to do front end development. The obvious thing would be create a course. Another obvious thing would be use your skills of doing front end dev to create a Shopify app that is, it makes you $99 a month across 100 or 1,000 users. So you can take your skills and apply them, package them. I usually say package them in a different way so that people can buy them over and over again. It's not like a custom thing every single time. So if you can't think of a way to productize front-end development, it's probably because you're thinking that you would always be doing the front-end development, but you don't have to do the development. You could sell your smarts about how to do the development and and you're probably thinking, oh, there's already a million courses about how to do front-end development. Okay, create a course where there is white space in the market, where there is a gap in the market. Front-end development for non-technical salespeople. Here's how you can do, here's salesperson, here's how you can create your own app using Bubble.io or whatever, or learn React for salespeople. I guarantee you there's not a course with that title. So if you have access to a lot of salespeople and you've got these smarts, you've got this expertise, package it up as a course and make it make sense to that group of people and at a price that they think seems reasonable. Okay, so there's maybe a couple of ideas to get your gears turning. Okay, I'm going to do some rapid fire ones. How do you manage a client asking for too many revisions along the way? Price yourself so you don't care how many revisions they do. Let's see. And then the follow-up question to that is like, but they would never agree to that price. The answer to that is make yourself the one and only, not just one of many. So if you are a designer, that's not good enough because they can just go to the next designer. They've got too many alternatives. But if you are the DIY video guy and you're the only person they're considering, or if you're the ditching hourly guy, you're going to be the only person that they're even considering. So you're going to attract people who only want to work with you. They don't want a designer or they don't want a video production person. They want the DIY video guy. It's the only person they trust. So make yourself the one and only, and then charge enough money so that you do not care how many revisions they ask for. Do you prefer fixed fees over subscriptions in order to not have to deal with churn? That depends. It's tough to answer. I think subscriptions are the future, but there's a lot of complications there too. And then, your churn becomes an issue that you don't have to worry about. But I mean, if you think about it, with fixed fees, you have 100% churn, right? So you go through all this work to write a proposal, you give them a fixed fee, probably value-based for a project, and then they definitely churn, right? So you can either go to 100% churn or like 25% churn on a subscription basis. I do think subscriptions are the future. Let's see. Here's another quick lightning round question. How do you convey price without listing your prices? Well, why not list your prices? Why not just list them? Come up with products and productized services where you can post prices on your website. I think that's a great thing to do. I think that a price is one thing that every buyer absolutely can understand. So if your prices are high, then that is projecting value. It's, you need to be good. You need to be able to back up, walk the walk, back up a premium price with expertise. So if you're not that great, then don't do this. But if you know what you're doing, you've been doing it for 5-10 years and you're starting to get angry because you know, noobs are undercutting you and you're losing clients to people who barely know how to wipe their nose, then maybe it's time to set some really high prices on your website, get really focused in your marketing, get really focused in your positioning, go after the cream of the crop, just like Apple did, and just attack that market. Just help those people who can afford these higher prices and make yourself the one and only option for what it is that they want done. Easier said than done, but it's completely doable. It takes time, but it's not rocket science. Let's see. Second half of that question was to avoid wasting time with people with no budget. Yeah, just post your prices. Like, what's the big deal? Just post them. Why not post them? If you only do custom work that you need to do proposals for every time, then post a minimum engagement price and be like, I only do stuff, custom projects starting at 50 grand, custom projects starting at 10 grand. And then that'll just filter out anybody who's a tire kicker who's got no money. Mm. Uh, I got to run, but these are great questions. How would you talk with your returning client about that you raise prices? Let's say like 30%. So this is actually a complicated question. Let's say that your pricing model hasn't changed. So if you're not talking about switching from hourly to another model, like some sort of fixed fee thing or a retainer, monthly retainer, if you're not talking about switching your model and you're just talking about raising prices, I just warn them. I say, when I raise my prices, I reach out to everybody who has purchased it in the past, might purchase it again, or maybe is thinking about purchasing it. And I say, I raised my prices, not I'm going to or I'm thinking about it. I raised my prices in December. If you were thinking about buying it, here's a coupon that will give you the old price for the next 30 days. And that solves it. How do you justify a client a custom software support plan is almost as pricey as the initial development cost? How can you justify to a client that a custom software support plan is almost as pricey as the initial development cost? I don't know. That's a tough sell. I would say that software is not very good if it's going to cost that much to support. And I understand that things break and third-party APIs change and people upgrade their systems or whatever. But if that were true, if it was going to cost that much to support, then I would probably have priced the whole. If you knew that in advance, I would say do the whole thing on a subscription where they don't even own the software, where you say, you guys want this thing built, it's gonna be extremely brittle for some good reason, so we don't want to put that on you. It's not going to work without constant attention, kind of like like a NASCAR or Formula One race car. It's just highly optimized for a particular thing, so it's going to be breaking all the time. But in order to be as optimized as it is, it's going to require this pit crew's constant attention. Okay, maybe that exists in the software world. So I would just sell the whole thing as a service, and they don't even own the software. Just they'll be your first SaaS customer, and it's $5,000 a month. You build it to their specifications, you own it, and they just keep paying $5,000 a month until they don't want to anymore. That might be one approach. Another approach is if it's not that the software is super brittle, but that you just don't want to do support for pennies, then just introduce them to someone who's willing to do support for pennies. So in other words, if the support actually isn't going to be that bad, you just hate the idea of doing it, introduce them to someone who does support as their entire business, and it can give them a price that's more acceptable to them. Can value-based pricing work for people just starting out in their industry? It can, but it certainly can work. It doesn't, but it's not like a magical recipe for your pricing to be high. So if you're brand new and you aren't that good and you go through the why conversation, then yeah, it could work. It would be weird though. It's almost like why bother? Like if you don't know what you're doing, it's not optimal. This would be it's optimal when you've got 5 or 10 years into your skill set and you're amazing at it. If you're not amazing at it, but you know what you're doing, I feel like the best fit there is a productized service. So like for example, if you're a copywriter and you're pretty good, but you're not like like Dan Kennedy, but you're pretty good, you know what you're doing, then you could offer like a testimonial service like Meg Cumbie does, where her tagline is something like get testimonials and case studies without the awkwardness. So if you're a consultant and you want to get case studies and testimonials from your past clients, just has this concierge service where she just does it for you. She could advertise herself as a by the word copywriter, but no, she's got this productized service and she totally knows what she's doing and she's expensive. But if you were just starting out, maybe you are a translator, maybe you localize websites, create a productized service, price it in a way that is profitable to you and affordable to the clients that you're attracting. And then as you get better at it, even if you charge the same price, you'll be faster and faster and faster and increase your profits. So for folks that are just starting out, I say go productize services all day long. Value pricing is a black belt move. So it'd probably be pretty hard for a noob to get away with it unless they were like really, really, really confident. All right, I gotta go. My wife's probably wondering about dinner. Well, thanks for all the great questions. I'm going to try and keep coming back to do these live streams. It's sort of unpredictable when I'm going to be on, but if you have questions, shoot me an email at jstark@jonathanstark.com, and maybe I'll tackle it next time. Cool. See you next time.